All right, again, so that the general audience understands, today we are having some technical difficulties here in chambers, and we will be recording our legislature meeting today so that they can post later on. We are in accordance with all meetings law. So with that being said, the May 13th, 2025 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy.
Here.
Ms. Bartholomew McCoy is present. Mr. Baynes. Mr. Baynes is present. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley is present. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick is present. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz is present. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Mrs. DiFlorio. Mrs. DiFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Present.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier is present. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman is present. Ms. Hughes-Smith. Ms. Hughes-Smith is present. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns is present. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller is present. Mr. Long. Mr. Long is present. Mr. Maffucci. Mr. Maffucci is present. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe is present. Ms. McIntyre.
Here.
Ms. McIntyre is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris is present. President Román.
Here.
President Román is present. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. And Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson is present.
Thank you. Please stay seated. I'd like to introduce Pastor Sebron O. Johnson of Greater Harvest Church, who has been invited by Legislator Frazier to lead us in a moment of prayer. Welcome. Come here.
And so let us pray. Oh God, we come to you on this evening with grandiloquent gratitude and awesome appreciation for the work of the individuals serving Monroe County. We pray your divine presence and purpose over these proceedings and over these legislators and lay people who serve us all, even in turbulent times. Amidst the polarization of so many communities, we choose not to live in anger. Amidst the decimation of programs, we choose not to live in fear. But God, we choose to live in the bold confidence that the cause of justice for all is sound, the voice of citizens is persistent, and our fight for democracy is right. And so, God, if prayer is what Mother Teresa claims, putting oneself in the hands of God, then we put our efforts in your hands. We put your legislative servants in your hands. We put the fight against poverty in your hands. Stand with us again, God, as we fight for peace on earth and equity for all humankind. So hear our prayer, O Lord. Incline thine ear to us and grant us thy peace. This we ask in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Johnson. I would like to thank you on behalf of the Monroe County Legislature, present you with the certificate. Thank you. Please stand as legislator. Pledge of Allegiance.
And to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now move to the approval of journal. Your copies of day 4, April 8th is available through Novus Agenda. Without exception, this journal will stand approved as submitted. Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycles are available on Novus Agenda as well as online. There are several proclamations scheduled for this evening. Mr. Clerk.
Would youth members of the Environmental Management Council please come forward? Also, President Yversha Román, legislators Virginia McIntyre and Susan Hughes-Smith.
Everyone. The Monroe County Legislature recognizes the Monroe County youth members of the Environmental Management Council. Whereas it is the sense of the legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations which make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor the outstanding youth members of the Monroe County Environmental Management Council for their exceptional dedication to fostering a more sustainable and environmentally healthy Monroe County. And whereas the Monroe County Environmental Management Council applies its expertise to create sustainable solutions aimed at preserving and safeguarding the diverse ecosystems of Monroe County while serving as advisors to various governmental agencies. And whereas these dedicated youth, Dana McCarthy, Hunter Freese, Ethan Hunn, Colin Peters, Finnegan Schlafer, and Jack Debus have served as active members of the Environmental Management Council, contributing their perspectives and demonstrating extraordinary leadership in advancing environmental initiatives. And whereas through their service on the council, these students have led efforts in the formation of the Youth Environmental Management Committee, laying the groundwork for a sustainable structure that will amplify the voices of young people on environmental issues within the county. And whereas these students represent the bright future of Monroe County, exemplifying leadership, innovation, and an unwavering commitment to the health of our planet. They not only serve as catalysts for positive change, but also as a source of inspiration for their peers and community. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Yversha Román, President, Virginia McIntyre, Legislator District 4, and Susan Hughes-Smith, Legislator District 14, do hereby honor these youth members of the Monroe County Environmental Management Council and commend their leadership in developing the future Youth Environmental Management Committee on this 13th day of May, 2025.
Would Carrie Lofton please come forward? Also, President Yversha Román and legislators Mercedes Vasquez Simmons, Carolyn Delvecchio Hoffman, Rachel Barnhart, Mr. Bartholomew McCoy, and Rose Bonnick.
You guys want to move down that way so we can have cake on it. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of. The Monroe County Legislature recognizes rock, paper, straws, whereas it is the sense of the legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations which make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor rock, paper, straws for extraordinary commitment to eliminating single-use plastics and promoting eco-friendly alternatives in the community. And whereas rock, paper, straws, founded by Carrie and her mother in 2018, has grown from a passionate response to a viral video of a turtle suffering from a plastic straw to a thriving business committed to producing 100% biodegradable, environmentally conscious paper straws that help reduce plastic waste and protect our planet's ecosystems. And whereas, with a deep respect for the environment, Rock Paper Straws ensures that every aspect of their operation is environmentally responsible, from using recycled and compostable packaging materials to sourcing eco-friendly raw materials for their products, and ensuring that all manufacturing practices follow strict sustainability guidelines. And whereas, in an effort to meet the increasing demand for paper straws, Rock Paper Straws has navigated a challenging journey of innovation, perseverance, and determination, overcoming manufacturing obstacles and delays to create a product that is not only sustainable, but of exceptional quality. And whereas, despite facing significant challenges, Rock Paper Straws has remained steadfast in its mission to help the world suck responsibly, and continues to provide businesses and consumers with an eco-conscious alternative to single-use plastics, ensuring a cleaner and greener future for generations to come. And whereas the leadership, dedication, and tireless work of the mother-daughter team at Rock, Paper, Straws serves as an inspiring example of how entrepreneurship, creativity, and a commitment to the environmental responsibility can lead to a positive change in the world. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Yversha Román, President, Mercedes Vasquez Simmons, Vice President, Carolyn DeVecchio Hoffman, Assistant Majority Leader, Rachel Barnhart, Legislator, District 17, Lister Bartholomew McCoy, Legislator, District 18, and Rose Bonnick, Legislator, District 27, do hereby honor Rock, Paper, Straws on the 13th day of May, 2025. You guys can say a few words if you'd like. Okay.
Oh. Hello. I just want to say thank you so much. This is quite an honor. And I've lived in Rochester my whole life. I love this city so much. So I'm so proud that we can contribute something to put us on the map. We are one of only a handful of paper straw manufacturers in the whole United States, and we're the only one that's women-owned. So we are very proud of that. So yeah, Rochester's officially a paper straw manufacturing hub. And they last for over 24 hours. So all you skeptics out there that hate paper straws, I know there's a lot of you, give us a try. So, and thank you so, so much.
Would members of the Fairy Godmothers of Rochester please come forward? Also, County Executive Adam J. Bello, Legislator Michael Udelson, and President Yversha Román.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes the fairy godmothers of Rochester, whereas it is the sense of the legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations which make Monroe County a better place to live. And whereas, attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor the fairy godmothers of Rochester for their extraordinary contributions to the lives of young women, their unwavering commitment to inclusivity and empowerment, and their tireless work in making dreams come true for so many deserving young ladies. And whereas the Fairy Godmothers of Rochester, a nonprofit organization founded in 2004 by Renee Spallina and Cynthia Jackson, has been an unwavering beacon of hope and support for young women in our community, ensuring that every girl, regardless of financial circumstances, has the opportunity to experience the magic of prom. And whereas the mission of the Fairy Godmothers of Rochester is simple yet profound, to provide formal prom dresses and accessories to young women in need, offering them not only a beautiful gown, but the self-esteem and inner strength to feel like a princess on one of the most memorable nights of their young lives. And whereas through the generous donations of new and gently used dresses and accessories, the organization has helped dress over 500 young women each year, serving more than 200 high schools and special programs in the region. And whereas the Fairy Godmothers of Rochester continues to thrive under the leadership of Amy Salzman and Lynn Fierro, ensuring their mission not only endures but expands, providing hope, support, and inspiration to future generations of young women across our community. And whereas the Fairy Godmothers of Rochester's tireless dedication to fostering confidence, kindness, and inclusivity through the simple yet powerful act of providing a prom dress has made an indelible impact in so many lives. Now, therefore, let it be known that we, Adam J. Bello, Monroe County Executive, Yversha Román, President, and Michael Udelson, Majority Leader, do hereby honor the Fairy Godmothers of Rochester on this 13th day of May, 2025.
Wow, thank you. You guys, come on over. Hi, I'm Amy Salzman, Director of Fairy Godmothers of Rochester. I'm here with some of my team, Jenilyn Sudo, Kathy Nelkin, and Donna Carnes. Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking Monroe County Executive Adam Bello, Legislative President
Yversha Román, Majority Leader Michael Yversha, and the entire Monroe County Legislature tonight for our recognition. At Fairy Godmothers of Rochester, we welcome girls from all over Monroe County and beyond to experience the joy and love that only a fairy godmother can give, preparing for a big night like prom. It is a job of the fairy godmother to help a young woman feel noticed, empowered, beautiful. You might be surprised to see what kind of magical confidence can come out of encouragement and a beautiful dress. And yes, we provide shoes, jewelry, an evening bag, all the things a young lady needs who wouldn't otherwise be able to attend her prom due to financial strain. Without the support of our volunteers and generous community partners, we couldn't do it. This season alone, we dressed over 800 girls with the hard work of about 75 volunteers. Our numbers grow each year as the need and outreach grow. Thank you, Monroe County Legislature, for noticing our hard work and dedication to this community. Thank you.
So much. Thank you so much.
Would Andrea Lista and the Master Gardeners please come forward? Also, President Yversha Román and Legislator Steve Brew.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes CCE Monroe Masters Gardeners. For half a century, the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Monroe County's Master Gardener Program has been a beacon of community education, environmental stewardship, and volunteerism. Since its inception in 1975, the program has trained dedicated volunteers to disseminate research-based horticultural knowledge, fostering sustainable gardening practices, and enhancing the quality of life throughout Monroe County. And whereas the Master Gardener volunteers have tirelessly served the community by staffing the gardening helpline, conducting home site assessments, and leading educational initiatives such as the Pollinator-Friendly Garden certification. Their efforts have empowered residents to make informed decisions about their gardens, contributing to a healthier and more sustainable environment. And whereas the program's signature initiatives, including Blocks in Bloom and Seeds to Supper, have brought communities together, transforming urban landscapes and promoting food security. Through workshops, plant sales, and community events, Master Gardeners have cultivated not only plants, but also strong community bonds and a shared commitment to environmental responsibility. And whereas the enduring success of the Master Gardener program is a testament to the unwavering dedication of its volunteers and the visionary leadership of Cornell Cooperative Extension. As we celebrate this golden anniversary, we honor the profound impact the program has had on our community and look forward to its continued growth and service in the years to come. Now, therefore, we, Yversha Román, President, and Steve Brew, Republican Leader, on behalf of the Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize and congratulate CCE Monroe Master Gardeners on the occasion of its 50th anniversary and extend our deepest appreciation to all past and present volunteers.
Wow. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Monroe County Master Gardeners, I would like to say thank you for this amazing and outstanding recognition of our 50th anniversary of the program here for Cornell Cooperative Extension of Monroe County. I'm incredibly grateful and honored to work alongside the most dedicated volunteers who generously donate their time, enthusiasm, and knowledge to Monroe County residents to further enhance their gardening endeavors, assist with beautifying our communities in the city of Rochester, and provide assistance to those who wish to have knowledge and skills to grow vegetables and access to healthy food choices. Thank you to the Monroe County Parks Department and our legislators for your continued support of Extension services. And thank you to those who continuously spread the Master Gardener mission and those who utilize Extension services. Thank you so much.
And Calder, please come forward. Also, President Yversha Román and Legislator Tracy DiFlorio.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Román Calder. Whereas the Monroe County Legislature takes great pride in recognizing outstanding young individuals whose accomplishments reflect the highest standards of excellence and bring distinction to themselves, their schools, and our community. And whereas Román Calder has achieved the highest honor in New York State High School indoor track and field by being crowned the state champion in the 55-meter dash with a time of 6.35 seconds in the final, beating out his nearest competitor by 1/100th of a second. And whereas Román's achievement is the latest in a long line of successes, a list which includes competing in the Junior Olympics, being the first 8th grader to win both Section 5 and New York State championships in the long jump, and holding the state record for long jump by an 8th grader. Román has also been named to the all-grader Rochester first team ever since 8th grade and holds school records in the 55-meter dash and long jump. And whereas Román's 2025 55-meter dash state championship win is not only a testament to his raw speed and competitive drive, but also to his relentless work ethic, mental discipline, and the countless hours of preparation that have gone into refining his craft over the years. And now, therefore, we, Yversha Román, President, and Tracy DiFlorio, Legislator, District 3, on behalf of Monroe County, do hereby recognize and honor Román Calder for winning the 2025 55-meter dash New York State Championship.
I was gonna come out here and say thank you to everybody, and yeah, more to come, of course.
Would Christopher Noto please come forward? Also, President Yversha Román and Legislator Rick Milne.
Good evening. I just wanted to say a couple words before we read the proclamation. Every school community, business community, or home community has a family that in some way really steps up to enhance the area. The Honey Falls Lima Central School District is blessed to have families step up to support programs, whether it be music, arts, or sport. One such family is the Noto family here with us tonight. While tonight we are here to celebrate Christopher Noto, the background is also important because Chris follows two incredible brothers in the same sport. Very briefly, the oldest brother, Anthony, was a 4-time state champion in 4 different weight classes. He went on to wrestle at Division I Lock Haven in Pennsylvania and has earned All-American status there. Anthony is currently completing his master's at Lock Haven and is part of the coaching ranks in various programs, including that at Lock Haven. Just a stellar student athlete. Middle brother, Nicholas, started wrestling varsity in 7th grade and became the youngest wrestler to qualify for states as an 8th grader. Nicholas was a 4-time sectional champion, 4-time super sectional champion, 4-time New York State placer, New York State runner-up in his senior year. Nicholas went on to wrestle at SUNY Cortland and currently helps coach and train wrestlers at HFL. Nicholas also is in the police academy, getting ready to graduate very soon and will become a Monroe County Sheriff's Deputy. Christopher, well, Chris also began wrestling as a seventh grader. He is a four-time Monroe County champion, a five-time sectional champion, a four-time super sectional champion. He currently has a 168 and 9 record as a junior, 106 of those coming by pin. Chris is a four-time New York State placer, two-time finalist, and won the New York State Championship this season at 132 pounds. He's a two-time high school All-American, the primetime 585 and News 8 Wrestler of the Year, and will also be going to Lock Haven to wrestle Division I. A family fun fact, the Noto brothers represent the first time in history that three siblings all be Monroe County champions, class sectional champions, state qualifier champions, and all be state representatives for their school. Combined records for the Noto brothers is currently 480 and expected to surpass 500 as Chris enters his senior year. Susan and Tony, you've got a heck of a family. You've done a great job, and thank you very much to your commitment to our community.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Christopher Noto. Whereas excellence in athletics is a source of pride and inspiration for our entire community, and few exemplify that excellence more than Christopher Noto, a standout student athlete at Honeoye Falls Lima High School. Christopher began his varsity wrestling career as a seventh grader and has since distinguished himself as one of the most accomplished wrestlers in New York State history. And whereas Christopher has carried on a tradition for the Noto family like no other, as a part of the first trio of brothers in history to all be Monroe County champions, class sectional champions, state qualifier champions, and state representatives while combining for nearly 500 wins. And whereas Christopher made history as the first four-time Monroe County champion, the first five-time Section 5 class champion, and as a five-time super sectional champion, achieving a remarkable career record of 168 wins and only 9 losses, with 106 victories coming by pin. And whereas Christopher has placed in the New York State Championships 4 times, been a finalist twice, and was crowned the 2025 New York State Division II champion at 131 pounds by major decision. And whereas Christopher's talents have been recognized nationally, earning him the title of 2-time NHSCA All-American, as well as being named the Primetime 585 Wrestler of the Year, News Channel 8 Wrestler of the Year, and 2025 All Greater Rochester Wrestler of the Year. And whereas Christopher Noto's commitment, sportsmanship, and record-setting performance have made him a role model to aspiring athletes and a source of immense pride for his school and community. Now, therefore, we, Yversha Román, President, and Richard B. Milne, Legislator, District 5, on behalf of Monroe County, do hereby recognize and honor Christopher Noto for winning the 2025 Division II 131-pound Wrestling New York State Championship.
I want to thank my family and coaches for all the hard work they put into me and all the hours. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to presentation of formal committee reports. There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold the public forum. Thank you to everyone who has signed up for the forum. We ask that everyone maintain the forum during this time. We will not tolerate any disruptions during this meeting from the gallery. A second warning will be issued before a deputy will be asked to remove you from the gallery. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mr. Clerk.
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature. Please do not bring up any signs or props. Do not single out any legislator, and please conclude when the buzzers. Thank you for your cooperation. The first three speakers are Paul Frisella, Irene Sanchez, and Edwin Ortiz.
Mankind must get off of the earth and colonize the solar system and beyond. Because as time goes on, the chance for man-made and natural disasters will increase. Here are some disasters. Global warming, causing droughts, floods, reduction in habitable land due to rising oceans, future ice ages, volcanic and supervolcanic eruptions. There is a supervolcano in Yellowstone National Park. The threat of disease and pandemics, the threat of nuclear war, lack of food caused by man destroying his environment, increasing human population causing problems, the chance of a hostile extraterrestrial invasion due to the fact that man is sending out radio waves for all to see going deeper into space every year. The fact that in the far future, the sun will expand and become a red giant and make Earth uninhabitable. In conclusion, man must get off the Earth and colonize space and beyond to guarantee his survival.
Good evening, buenas noches. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again tonight. My name is Irene Sanchez, and I'm here as a mother, voter, resident of Monroe County, and on behalf of the Western New York Coalition. Tonight, I'm here to remind you that your support is urgently needed to protect some of the most vulnerable members of our community. Cuts in federal funding and state funding are impacting everyone, especially immigrant and migrant families who are already living in the shadows. These cuts are not only numbers on a budget, they are increasingly the risk of exploitation right here in our backyards. Rather than overwhelming you with statistics, again, I want to share a few stories because behind every data point, there is a person, a family fighting for survival, contributing, and building a better life in a place they hope will offer them safety and opportunities. Jessica and Ricky came here from Colombia seeking asylum. They arrived with nothing. After a few weeks sleeping outside, they called our hotline, and in a few days, we were able to get them food, shelter, English classes, and work. Now they're stable. They're working with legal status and giving back to the community. Danilo, a construction worker, was not paid by his boss and threatened with deportation. We helped him and his family with legal support and safe housing. He now has a work permit and is working with law enforcement to hold those who traffic him accountable. Graciela from Venezuela came to Rochester battling cancer. She reached out to us and we helped her to start treatment, and today she's in remission and living her life on her own. Miguel, a young farm worker trapped in labor trafficking, is now a proud U.S. citizen pursuing a college degree. A powerful testament of what is possible when we intervene with compassion and justice. These all cases are here from Monroe County. These are your residents. But stories like this are at risk. Families are facing rising ICE activities and CBP, fewer legal services, and isolation. Too many are vulnerable to abuse, separation, and homelessness, and we cannot meet this crisis alone. Again, we urge you to support immigrant families. I know everybody needs help, but we cannot continue leaving behind those who are been working so hard to keep us in a stable position. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Most of you probably don't know who I am. I'll introduce myself. I'm Edwin Ortiz. I was born and raised in Rochester, New York for the past 27 years of my life. I'm the son of two Puerto Rican migrants who came here in the early 90s to build a better life for themselves and for their children, their future children. Si necesitan que lo repita en español, me dejan saber y se lo hago. I wanted to just take this short time to speak on the importance of securing funding for a community and population that has had every ounce of support stripped from them due to the changes in the recent administration. not here to argue about politics, but simply advocate about what's right versus wrong, about the inhumane attacks on the immigrant population solely based on the color of their skin or solely because they look like they're from Central or South America. We as a county and as a city, the least we can do is try to create a safety cushion in terms of funding for members in our community so that they know if something were to happen to them or a family member, they know that there's county legislators and representatives in the city. They're able to provide immediate services for them and family members that may be facing separation, detention, deportation, and every other issue that arises from family separation. Just a little background, I've had the privilege of working within the legal nonprofit sector for the city of Rochester for over 4.5 years. Started as a fresh graduate of St. John Fisher College. And at that time, I never knew I was going to be thrown into a world where even legal professionals such as attorneys and DOJ accredited representatives are constantly having to reevaluate, what their clients are able to apply for, just because there's somebody else in charge. In these 4.5 years of work, I dealt with the Afghan crisis in 2021, the Ukrainian war in February 2022, the border crisis in 2023. And I just returned to now having to, handle a full-fledged attack on every single immigrant in the country. All right. So, all right. So just to wrap up the quick speech, in the 4.5 years, I've heard hundreds, if not thousands, of stories about why an individual might bring their family, their children through the desert, through the jungle, across the ocean, through rivers, and everything in between to get to the U.S. Although their journeys may have differed, their reasonings were all the same. And most of them, if not all of them, have told me it's to give their wife, husband, children, mother, father, to give their families a better chance at living prosperously.
Our next three speakers are LaWanda Shipman, Terrence Schnurr, and Rebecca Collins.
Hello, everyone. I am LaWanda Shipman. I'm Vice President of the Federation of Social Workers. I'm here to speak about worker safety for myself and my coworkers. Recently, there's been several viral social media moments due to the violence inside and outside of 691 St. Paul Street. And although these physical acts of violence did not involve my coworkers this time, they have in the past. We're asking for some very, very minimal things. We believe that if we have a sheriff on duty in the building, it will help deter some of the things that go on at 691 St. Paul Street. We service the most vulnerable population at the worst times of their lives. And although some of the situations outside does not involve our clients, it directly affects our coworkers. We're looking for clearly defined safe spaces in our buildings on every floor, somewhere where we can go if there's a situation going on. We're looking for a way to shut down the buildings if there's an emergency situation outside. We would like the use of the intercom system or an email to notify us that, hey, don't come downstairs. There's a situation, stay in place. Armed guards like they have at DMV. The sheriff saw firsthand how our security guards are disregarded outside in the parking lot. The parking lot is used as a throughway for a lot of people, but we need to make it safe for our clients as well as my coworkers. We're looking for emergency response team for our caseworkers when they're out in the field. Some have reported up to 3 hours of wait time for RPD. Or emergency GPS locator button for the caseworkers that directly goes to the law enforcement. We just want to return home to our families after a hard day's work. That's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of my old professors, Mark Osler, has a catchphrase: does it solve a problem? With that thought in mind, let's put to one side the breathtaking absurdity of Sandra Dorley, of all people, seeking to have an elected official removed. And consider two other facts. First, John Perdicone and his allies, individually and collectively, have had standing to start a Section 36 proceeding against Supervisor Evans on their own dime for months. Second, the appellate division has scheduled a roughly 2-week proceeding for 2 weeks before the general election, meaning if Ms. Dorley's efforts are successful, Supervisor Evans' term will be truncated by at most a few weeks. So ask yourselves, what problem is being solved by Miss Dorley spending the people's money and the appellate division's time on this matter? Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Collins. I'm a Webster resident and a member of Color Webster Green. My husband and I moved here 8.5 years ago from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm pleased and impressed that New York State is a leader in climate action. Since we moved here, New York passed the Climate Legislation and Community Protection Act, CLCPA. And additionally, you, our Monroe County legislators, passed both phases of the County Climate Action Plan. Thank you for that. The CLCPA and County Climate Action Plan are aligned in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. One of the focus areas of the County Climate Action Plan is sustainable materials management. The EPA estimates that more food reaches landfills than any other single material, accounting for a total of 24% of solid waste. And we know that when food is buried in landfills, it breaks down without oxygen and produces methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. A solution to this is to develop systems-level composting facilities in order to divert food waste from landfills. Composting breaks down food in the presence of oxygen to produce a rich, fertile soil amendment that recycles valuable nutrients back into local ecosystems. The County Climate Action Plan has strategies to address sustainable materials management. Strategy 1, waste reduction programs, includes finalize and implement recommendations of the organics management plan. The Color Your Community Green groups in Monroe County would like the legislature to act on this by authorizing the construction of multiple composting facilities within the county. Thank you for your consideration of this important matter.
Our next three speakers are Kevin Yost, Justin Delanoy, and Jeff Goldblatt.
Kevin Yost, 1474 Middle Road in the town of Henrietta. Good evening. Frederick, now called the Frederick Douglass Monroe County Rochester Monroe County International Airport, since the two renovations happened in recent years. The first one being in late 80s, early 90s in the Fry administration, when artwork was in there, calls for artwork from artists, and then sometime around the mid 2010s, not too many years ago, by the previous administration, with whether one agrees with the nice lights and having to put advertising and having to put the artwork in storage because the renovation or not, it's water under the bridge. It's a done deal whether one agrees with the fact that taxes, fees, and surcharges had to be tacked on to Lyft, Uber, and taxi service, and now the airport to pay for it. It's water under the bridge, but if the previous county executive told me face to face that was in storage and they were have to contact the artist to see what to do with it. If it's still in storage, if something's not done with it, may I suggest you go to possibly to a few other local places. One could be, Memorial Art Gallery, or at least some of it, which of course is, most don't know, is a branch of the University of Rochester, an asset of the community, even though you do have to pay admission fee. And then other places could be a few city facilities, Florida Riverside Convention Center, you have Nears Watts Conference Center, or the Charlotte Port of Rochester Ferry Terminal to consult with the city. Thank you.
Jeff Goldblatt, Solid Waste Advisors. The last time I was here, I knew that Monroe County would not make its 60% diversion pledge to the state by this point in time. The state hasn't gotten there either, so don't feel bad. Nationally, on Boxing Day, it was reported that nationwide, the diversion rate is only 32%, which is pathetic. Why is this important? Well, the head of the National Waste and Recycling Association says that over the next 10 years, the amount of available landfill space nationally will be reduced by 30%. The county is already taking in trash from Batavia at Riga and a portion of New York City's trash at High Acres. So you do the math. How can this be mitigated? Well, there's two quick things that could be done. First, a countywide ban following what the town of Greece has done as far as paper bags for yard waste, and also commercial food digesters, which would deal with the issue that was raised a few minutes ago. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Peter Matthews, Victoria Dinotia, and Kevin Lockhart. No.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to voice my opposition to this expenditure of $3 million for the installation of cameras, which will result in the 24/7 surveillance of Monroe County residents. We need more privacy, not less. Our health information is hacked. Our financial histories are sold. Our personal identities are stolen. This will be no different. We are promised this information will be protected, but past data breaches of all kinds prove this to be a faint and feeble hope. However, if the two top executives of the equipment supplier and the two top executives at the sheriff's office were to pledge the following, I might be willing to reconsider my position. Their pledge would be this: if the information were ever to be misused by anyone, or monetized by anyone, or stolen by anyone, or if the stated purpose were to be extended by anyone, they would promise to resign immediately and forfeit all stock options, pensions, deferred compensation, etc. This would demonstrate they have total confidence in both the usefulness and security of these cameras. These four people, however, did not rise to the positions they now hold by being stupid. They know, as does every person in this room, data servers with personal information are being attacked and breached every hour of the day. This brave new world of constant surveillance and diminishing privacy is becoming less enjoyable every day. Please vote no. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Victoria Dinotia, and I'm a senior at Aquinas. As part of my AP Government class, I'm doing a civics engagement project. My goal is to limit the creation of anti-homeless architecture and promote the creation of inclusive structures. By definition, anti-homeless architecture is an urban design strategy using elements of the built environment to intentionally restrict behavior deemed undesirable by urban leaders. This is often done to create an image of safe and friendly streets for a city. However, being the state with the second highest rate of homelessness in the United States as of 2025 should discourage the creation of these structures. Shelters are a wonderful resource. However, they can only hold so many people and provide for so many people with their limited resources. Those experiencing homelessness deserve to be able to rest and take cover from elements, especially in the often harsh New York weather conditions. One of these options has been extremely limited in the city. Throughout the city, 54 covered bus stops have been replaced with bus cubes, taking cover away from the rain, snow, and the beating sun for all people using the stops. Addressing homelessness is an extensive task. Starting small by providing access to sheltered public places can improve a person's quality of life in the meantime. For this to be effective, policy resulting of the ruling of Grants Pass v. Johnson in June 2024 must be addressed. The Supreme Court deemed regulating camping on public property constitutional. Since this case, Rochester has banned the creation and presence of homeless encampments in parks and public areas. Those in violation are faced with up to $1,000 in fines and months in jail, which makes it harder to find jobs and housing after the sentence. These rules apply even when homeless shelters are full. I hope we can work together to make a change for the better to help people who need it most. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Gail Mott, Shannon Bennett, and Julio Montilla Sanchez.
Good evening. My name is Gail Mott. I live on Melrose Street in Rochester, and I'm here just to say a few words about immigrant rights. Emma Lazarus, whose words are inscribed on the Statue of Liberty, was a descendant of Sephardic Jews who came here, immigrated to the United States from Portugal about the time of the American Revolution. You're all familiar with her words that are signs of welcome to all of us who are not Native Americans, because the rest of us, all of us, are immigrants. And we are immigrants who are living on their land. Some of the words of Emma Lazarus are, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." Adam Bello wrote in 2023, New York City's migrant crisis is impacting the entire state of New York. Here in Monroe County, I put an executive order in place to ensure that any asylum seekers brought here would have their housing, medical, and personal needs addressed and planned for with funding secured from New York City. The asylum seekers came here to attain the American dream, and that dream happens by having a job and the ability to work for a better future. Federal laws now prohibit asylees from working, and that needs change. So this year, I urge you to please add the following rights: access to legal counsel, the right to due process, the freedom to live without fear or discrimination. These are not only legal protections, but fundamental human rights. And these rights are currently being abridged by ICE agents who are coming into our neighborhoods. I urge everyone to set up neighborhood watch committees to be alert for vehicles that are unknown and stay without anyone getting out. Photograph the license plates as well as the car itself and give this information to Rochester Rapid Response Network. Thank you.
Good evening, all. My name is Shannon Bennett. I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. As a lifelong resident of Henrietta, one thing I've always loved growing up in Monroe County is it's such a beautiful melting pot of cultures and peoples from all over the globe. Throughout my school-age years, I had befriended many classmates who had immigrated to the U.S. and had chosen our community to call home. These friendships have been some of the strongest I've ever had, and I've been so grateful to experience them. I was welcomed into so many families and tables where we could break bread and enjoy each other's company. Even though we didn't always speak the same language, sharing the human experience was enough. I was also taught about the hardships and trials that many of them faced as they left their home countries and the motives behind their arrivals to the U.S. These stories truly broke my heart and opened my eyes to the realities I had been so privileged to never have known. I wish I had the time and the words to share every one of their stories with you all. This is why I can say with great confidence that the current state of this country truly horrifies me. Not only as a friend to many, but as a Catholic, as a woman, as an American, and as an individual who can trace my own roots back to immigrants. I can't imagine what it must feel like to have a target on my back, to always be looking over my shoulder, afraid to leave my home for fear of arrest and deportation, to have to bite my tongue in the face of injustice because the right to free speech is only given to those with papers, to be told do it the legal way when the legal way may take decades, if at all, to have to tell my children to watch their backs when they go to school, a place where they should feel safe and nurtured. I know there are many of us who will never understand what it is like, and we should be so grateful for that. But a lack of understanding does not excuse a lack of empathy. I urge this community, which has been so good to me and those around me, to continue to be advocates and a safe place for our immigrant neighbors, to welcome them, to shield them, and to ensure that they are safe to experience the blessings that this country offers to all. I will leave you with a quote from our late Pope Francis. Migrants and refugees are not pawns on the chessboard of humanity. They are children, women, and men who leave or are forced to leave their homes for various reasons, who share a legitimate desire for knowing and having, but above all, for being more. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Julio Montilla Sanchez, and I am a proud Eagle Scout of Monroe County and a college student studying engineering at Alfred State. We're here tonight to talk about what's right and about standing up for one another. You know what's not right? Violating human rights, separating children from their parents, forcing families to choose between safety and staying together. It's happening not in another country, but right here in our own community. Let me ask you, how many of you are parents? Probably some of you, a lot of you. Imagine sacrificing everything, your job, your home, even your safety, just to give your child a better future. Now imagine that the same system you put your faith in tells you, you don't belong here. You have no voice. That's the reality too many immigrant families face in Monroe County today. Families, many who came here legally or are undocumented, are being threatened with detention and deportation, often without their children. These are not criminals. They are people, neighbors, workers, caregivers. They make up a huge part of our labor force, and yet they're being pushed out by policies that are just not cruel, but unjust. So I ask why? Why are we repeating the same harm we saw in 2016? The answer is painful, because those in power don't care about the consequences. They don't care about the trauma, the fear, the families broken apart, but we should care. I'm only 20 years old, but I vote, and I'll keep voting. I'll keep speaking up, because I refuse to stay silent while human rights are being violated in my own community. And I'll end with this. Look at the person next to you. If they needed your help, I believe you'd fight for them. So fight for someone you don't know. Fight for the families who can't speak up tonight, not just with your words, but with your actions. Tu voto, tu voz. Your vote is your voice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Samuel Latempo, Kenny Carmona, and Rachel Saper.
Wait. Everyone's going to get a handout. Looks like this. It's basically a link to a petition to reactivate our bus stop at the local VA. God bless our troops. God bless our veterans. God bless America.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kenny Carmona. I am a senior outreach advocate for a local nonprofit here in Rochester, New York, a city shaped of migration, resilience, and rich tapestry of culture, from the earliest wave of immigration to today's global newcomers. Our community has been built by people who brought their hopes, skills, and traditions to the city and made it stronger. Immigration has played a central role in our growth, not only economically, but also socially and politically. Today, our diversity is one of our greatest assets. It has allowed for a meaningful integration between the legislative team and the people they serve. We see how policy conversation and are held, not just in government building, but in community centers, churches, mosques, and markets. Immigrants and refugees are no longer on the sidelines. They are all in the table, shaping decisions about education, housing, healthcare, and public safety. This collaboration between legislators and diverse communities isn't accidental. It is a result of intentional inclusion and the recognition that immigrants' voice matters. When your government reflects the people it serves across cultures, language, and experience, it becomes more responsive, more innovative, and more just. In Rochester, cultural diversity and immigration aren't just part of the story. They are the foundation of our progress together. They have transformed governance from something distant into something shared. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Saper. I am a staff attorney with the Legal Aid Society. I work in the immigration department. We work to protect the rights and dignity of our immigrant community. We help with removal defense, asylum applications, humanitarian applications such as U visas, VAWA, SIJ for children, TPS, green card applications, as well as many others. The reality is that in the Rochester area, there is a lack of immigration legal services. We are a group of 14 in our department, only 8 of which are immigration attorneys, and we feel the strain of the increased attacks on our clients. The other few nonprofit legal services that exist in Rochester have less resources than us and have closed their intakes. If we can't take a client, we have no one to refer them to. Currently, we are the only organization in the Rochester area that provides removal defense, and there is no nonprofit organization in Rochester that assists with any kind of detained matters. Some of our attorneys have over 130 individual cases at any given time and are stretched to their breaking point, but the need in our community continues to grow. This lack of resources creates situations of exploitations for our immigrant community. There has been an increased amount of notarios in the area who claim to be immigration experts and take the immigrants' money and then leave them in a worse situation, which is almost impossible for us to remedy if they even get to us. Our clients and the community have experienced incredible fear recently. Many have lost their ability to work. Many of their futures are uncertain. Afghan clients whose family members assisted our troops and whose lives are in danger are now being told it's safe for them to go back. Adults who have taken in younger family members and friends, children who were traveling alone across the border are now having to face increased Homeland Security investigators coming to their homes and questioning them about their intention with with these children. Those who have regular standard petitions who should be approved are now facing increased security and hurdles to overcome. I just want to thank you for your attention to any of these matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next public forum speaker is Holly Laporta.
Hello, friends. My name is Holly Laporta. I've been a resident of Monroe County for 20 years, and I currently live in Honeoye Falls. I am not an expert on immigration policy or immigration law, but I wanted to share my perspective. I'm the bookkeeper for a local nonprofit here in Rochester that serves the migrant community. You've heard from some of my colleagues earlier, Irene, Kenny, and Edwin. I'm also a member of a church that's very concerned with what's happening to our migrant community. I'm the mother of 3 boys, and I cannot imagine the fear that migrant families are feeling in this new climate. I'm a customer of the local farms that rely on the migrant community to survive and thrive. I have lived in many places in New York State, and Rochester is by far my favorite. I love being a part of this community. What I love most about this community is our diversity and our kindness. And I expect the people I vote for to also care about these things. I will continue to vote as a supporter of local farms, as a mother, as a church member, as someone who will not just stand by and watch outside political pressure affect our wonderful community. One thing I know to be true to my bones: I am not safe to hold my children at night and thank God for my blessings until every mother in Monroe County can do the same. My family is not safe until all families are safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This concludes the public forum.
Thank you. We'll now proceed with the consideration of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 25-0134.LL, enacting local law entitled Waiver of Residency Requirement for Attorneys Employed by Monroe County.
Moved by Legislator Barnhart, seconded by Legislator Baynes. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 2, referral 25-0134.LL, providing that local law entitled Waiver of Residency Requirement for Attorneys Employed by Monroe County be tabled.
Moved by Legislator Barnhart, seconded by Legislator Baynes. This is to table. All in favor? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 25-0134.LL, fixing a public hearing on local law entitled Waiver of Residency Requirement for Attorneys Employed by Monroe County.
Moved by Legislator Barnhart, seconded by Legislator Baynes. This is to set a public hearing. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 25-0109, resolution for Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad, New York Scenic Byway nomination and corridor management plan adoption.
My apologies. We missed the fact that I said we would introduce the considerations of motions, resolutions, and notices, and the clerk read the item.
Sorry.
Yep, no problem. Can I get my moved and my seconds?
I had it moved by Legislator Burgess. I also had it, and then I had it seconded by Legislator Hughes-Smith. I also heard Legislator Smith second, and then there was one other one. Legislator McIntyre seconded that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Legislator Vasquez Simmons is on there as well.
Perfect. Is there any discussion? Okay. So before we get into voting, I just want to say that tonight I am very proud to lead the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad New York Scenic Byway resolution that we're about to vote on shortly. Not only because of the historic importance of this initiative, but because of what it represents at this moment in history. This portion of the byway is a part of a broader 550-mile effort to connect freedom seeker sites across 22 counties in New York State, from New York City to Niagara Falls, including right here in Monroe County. It is a deliberate act of remembrance, education, and truth-telling. I'm truly proud that Monroe County will be a part of this statewide vision. I've engaged with the Underground Railroad Consortium of New York State and Visit Rochester to make this resolution possible, because we believe our county should not just witness history, but actively serve it and present it to our future generation. At this time, when school boards, legislatures, and political movements across the country are working to erase the reality and the legacy of slavery, the Underground Railroad, and resistance from our history books, this resolution is an act of resistance in itself. I truly refuse to let Harriet Tubman's legacy be mischaracterized and erased. Her story, rooted in courage, defiance, and liberation, is a part of all our story, and it deserves to be honored boldly and permanently. This is more than just a designation. It's a commitment to telling the full truth of our nation's past and using that truth to inform our future. I truly thank all of my colleagues in the legislature and the county executive for supporting this resolution. I look forward to Monroe County's participation in uplifting the legacy of Harriet Tubman and other freedom seekers passed through our region and who will be highlighted by this byway. Thank you all so much. With that being said, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes.
I move that we consider the rest of the agenda as a whole, with the exception of items number 25 and 31 through 35.
Moved by legislator Udelson, seconded by legislator Brew. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes.
can I just, thank you. Can I just have it noted, number 22, I would like to go on as a second.
I got that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? No? Okay, we're gonna move on, moving the agenda.
Yep.
Yes.
Do a vote.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
We should be on item number 25. Item number 25, referral 25-0135, adopt resolution allowing Monroe County to install automatic license plate reader equipment and technology within right-of-way owned by New York State.
Move it.
Moved by legislator Long, seconded by legislator Maffucci. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baynes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Gotcha.
The speaker earlier certainly had a compelling point. And we live in a hyper-regulated and surveilled world. But I'd like to explain my vote by observing that there are many types of spaces in which we move. This space that we're in now is a highly regulated space. And when we enter it, we recognize that we will be on a camera. We recognize that we will be subjected to a search entering the building. And, you know, I did have a long career, somewhat felt long, as a judge for 10 years. And as I used to share with defendants who would say to me, "What's wrong with America? Aren't I free?" And I said, well, you're not free when you're operating a motor vehicle, because you agreed in operating that motor vehicle that you would observe certain rules and laws, et cetera, and subject yourself. You still have rights, but subject yourself to the observation of law enforcement, et cetera. So given the point made by the young man earlier, I thought it was an excellent point. But I'd point out that when anybody in the law enforcement community misuses information, they are subject to extreme sanction. So I want to congratulate my colleagues who reached out and questioned around this. I think their questions were very real and appropriate. But I do believe that when people operate motor vehicles, they are essentially saying, I'm in the public unregulated or highly regulated space. And for that reason, since we're all being completely surveilled all the time, everywhere practically, that I feel that there is an overriding public interest in supporting this law. It's a bit of a close call because of the surveillance concerns, but for those reasons, I'll be voting yes. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Barnhart.
I just rise to explain my vote. The debate and discussion that we've had over the license plate readers has been fantastic. It's what we should be doing every time that Monroe County engages in purchasing surveillance technology. We have been allowed to ask questions. The sheriff has provided us answers, really good and thorough answers. And we've heard from the public. I've gotten emails from constituents. It's been covered by the news media. This is the way that it is supposed to be. Unfortunately, this is not the way it always is when Monroe County acquires and uses surveillance technology. I have explained this before, but I'll do so briefly again. The only reason that we're voting tonight is because New York State requires us to vote to opt into this license plate reader program, which I think is a good thing. But under our Monroe County charter, we do not vote on most surveillance technology purchases unless there needs to be an amendment to a capital budget. And that's because this technology, it's considered a commodity, not a professional service. I do disagree with that because the nature of surveillance technology today requires long-term subscriptions, data storage, and a very close relationship with the vendor. Be that as it may, changing that part of our charter is very complicated. And I appreciate the law department looking into that for me. But in the meantime, I am working on legislation with colleagues to require disclosure every time Monroe County purchases surveillance technology. So we might not be having these discussions openly, but at least we can know what's going on and we can share with the public. In terms of this legislation, the license plate readers, there's a lot of surveillance technology already in use in our community. And these very powerful tools are used by law enforcement, and they actually can do quite a bit of good. I don't believe in stopping progress. What I've heard from members of the public and some of my colleagues is that people are very concerned about trust. There's a lack of trust with how this data is going to be used, and that mostly involves concerns over the sheriff department relationship with ICE. And I have made it very clear, I share those concerns. But I think the solution to that issue of trust is not to block this technology. It's to exercise the oversight that we are granted in the charter over the sheriff's department and other policies. So I will be voting yes on the license plate readers. And again, I have appreciated the debate, the discussion, and the transparency, which is key to this technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
President Román?
Yes.
Hi, sorry. I just have one quick question through you to the administration. Is there any personal information that is going to be depicted with the picture of the car that you take?
Madam President, no, there is not. The concern over personal identifying information is not valid. There is no personal identifying information contained within a photograph of the back of your car.
Great. Thank you very much. I have no further questions.
Okay. Any other discussion? Legislator Bonnick.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to explain my vote. And I also have a few additional questions. I know I did submit some questions earlier on behalf of the people who I represent in my district. Through you, Madam President, to administration, one of my additional questions here is, will there be clear signage to Monroe County residents that license plate readers are in use in a specific area?
Through you, Madam President, no, there will not.
Okay. In looking at the policy, your policy states that this data will be kept for a year. One of the concerns I heard from the people I spoke with in my district is why such an extended period? If there is if these license plate that you're capturing is not involved in any crime, why not limit the time that you keep this data, say 90 days? Is there any particular reason why would we want to keep this data for a year?
Through you, Madam President, our policy was written based upon the guidance from New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, who recommends a minimum of 1 year. We recognize there needs to be a balance with that, and several crimes are reported after the fact, and investigative leads are uncovered well after the crime has occurred. So we believe that 1 year is a compromise between the recommended New York State policy and what would be feasible for solving crime.
Okay, and I know your policy also speaks of oversight. One additional question: what, if any, penalties are in place in the event that someone, access this, gain access, unauthorized access? Is there any particular penalties that are in place?
Through you, Madam President, yes, there are. Any violation of a sheriff's office policy, general order, or rules of regulations is referred through to the sheriff for discipline. Not knowing the circumstances of an event which you described, I couldn't predict what that disciplinary action would be, but it could range from coaching and counseling, retraining.
Is he finished? Is he finished? Thank you. Thank you. Let me just continue by saying I'm through with the questions, Madam President. But I had conversations with the people I represented yesterday, in their backyard. And while we recognize the importance of public safety, and I, for one, I'm not against public safety. I support anything that makes the job of the Sheriff Department more efficient, more effective. So my concern here is not for public safety, it's for privacy. My constituents are concerned about how this type of technology is going to invade on their right to privacy. They're concerned that the Fourth Amendment, which guarantees them the right to Fourth Amendment guarantees them the right to be secure in their possessions, in their house, and their papers. They are concerned that the current administration has no respect for the Constitution as it is. And so for them, they're asking, why is it the Sheriff Department needs this additional surveillance when, as someone pointed out, we're being surveilled all the time? There are cameras within the city limits, there are license plate readers already all around. So does Monroe County needs this type of technology? I want to agree that the purpose of the technology is in the deterrence of crime, but that comes with mass surveillance, which people are not comfortable with. The efficiency of this, my constituents are also concerned with the lack of transparency that comes with this. And they see this as a positive, but they also see that as a negative. So there's equally positive and negative effects of this type of a technology. I have to listen to the conversations I have with my constituents. And while I believe that this technology will help law enforcement be more efficient, more effective, and it will address a lot of the concerns about stemming crime, the concerns of my constituents as it relates to their privacy take precedence over that. And so I have to err on their side. And it's not Legislator Bonnick who is voting, it's the constituents who have sent Legislator Bonnick here and have had this conversation with me as it pertains to their concerns about their right to privacy. And so I will be voting no on this type of a technology at this time because they feel as if they will be harmed by having their license plate and their data stored, being collected and stored. And they don't know where it's going to go. They don't know who has custody of it. So at this time, I am going to say no on behalf of my constituent.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? I don't know if I saw hands in there. Legislator DeLossio.
I'm going to be voting no. I just wanted to say that I appreciate the presentation and the questions that the Sheriff's Department asked. My biggest concern with this right now is that the country is in really unprecedented times and we could be.
Point of order. Thank you.
It's a little awkward, legislator.
You can leave it down.
Legislator, you don't need to hold the mic. You can just set it right down. Thank you.
It's just uncomfortable. Do it. My biggest concern is we don't know where we're going to be in 6 months or a year or 2 years. And it's just not a good time to be increasing surveillance. I do believe in the intentions of the folks who advocated for this and what you're trying to do, but we just don't know where we're going to be. Even in 6 months, like I said. So I'm going to be voting no, especially now. Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion while standing? Yes, Legislator McCabe.
Yes, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote in support of this common sense public safety initiative. Because this is about law and order, it is our responsibility to give law enforcement the tools they need to protect our communities and keep our families safe. License plate readers are proven to work, yet Monroe County remains the only county in New York State without them. Across the country, they've made a real difference. In Eden Prairie, Minnesota, license plate readers helped to take down an auto theft ring. In Atlanta, an abducted child was rescued, thanks to a license plate reader alert. Nationwide, license plate readers have helped solve or prevent over 430,000 crimes in 2023. This is about stopping crime before it happens, from stolen cars to kidnappings to illegal guns and organized smash and grab operations. Take a moment to remember just last year, Thomas Chase, a 92-year-old Brighton resident, was killed by a Kia boy in a stolen car. If LPRs had been in place, that car may have been stopped before it reached its deadly conclusion. And I know some are concerned about privacy. As a constitutional conservative, I take that very seriously. But this technology is targeted and limited. It tracks down documented threats, not law-abiding citizens. Excuse me. There are strict guardrails in place, limited data retention, no random monitoring, full logging, and serious consequences for misuse. If abuse occurs, I'll be the first to call it out. But doing nothing, ignoring rising crime and tragic consequences is not an option. Our residents expect action. Let's also be clear. Some Democrats are voting no today, not because of the policy, but because they're still obsessed with the sensationalized rhetoric about ICE and President Trump. That has nothing to do with this
Yes, Legislator Baynes.
Legislator is speaking about why he's voting. He doesn't have the right to speak why anybody else is voting.
I'm explaining my vote. That's allowed.
You don't have to explain to anybody else.
I'm explaining my vote.
Please proceed with explaining your vote.
Thank you. This has nothing to do with this proposal. It only makes our community less safe. This isn't about federal partisan politics. It's about protecting our neighbors here in Monroe County.
Oh, I hear what you're saying.
If you back the blue, stand with working families and want safer streets, you should support this technology. Let's send a clear message to criminals. Monroe County is not open for business.
Legislator McCabe, are these the reasons why you're voting for this?
That's what I said when I started.
So you're saying you back the blue and you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's send a clear message to criminals. Monroe County is not open for business, and if you try, you will be caught. I'm voting yes, and I urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Yes, Legislator Moss.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to explain my vote on this referral and express my support for it. In my own town, the town of Greece, over 30 license plate reader cameras were installed throughout the town in late 2024. They were placed in various high-traffic areas all across the town. The software program alerts the Greece Police Department if any license plates match an ongoing investigation of a stolen vehicle. Sadly, we are all very well aware of the fact that there have been an ever-increasing trend in stolen vehicles all throughout the county over the last several years. And even more tragic is the fact that in many instances, the theft of a stolen vehicle also includes the commission of a more serious crime or the death of innocent people in our community. License plate readers in the town of Greece have made a huge positive impact in helping our police officers recover multiple stolen vehicles, as well as track various criminal activity in our community. If past news reports regarding stolen vehicles ending in a tragic death of innocent bystanders show us anything, it's that any one of the stolen vehicles and apprehended criminals caught in my community could have resulted in a tragedy had they not been stopped as a result of an LPR hit. That is why I emphatically support this legislation to install LPRs throughout Monroe County. I will be voting yes to help locate and retrieve stolen vehicles, to apprehend criminals who commit these crimes, and to hopefully prevent the tragic deaths of innocent people in our community. And I encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, and I yield.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, well, roll call vote, yes. Roll call vote, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call vote. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy.
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baynes. Mr. Baynes votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes no. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz.
Oh.
Mr. Cruz votes no. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes no. Mrs. DiFlorio. Mrs. DiFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer.
Yes.
Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hughes-Smith. Ms. Hughes-Smith votes no. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Maffucci. Mr. Maffucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes yes. Ms. McIntyre.
Yes.
Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair.
Yes.
Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 25-4, resolution passes. Item number 31, referral 25-0141, confirming appointment to the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency.
Moved by Legislator Barnhart, seconded by Legislator Baynes and Maffucci. Is there any discussion? Yes, Legislator.
I just want to say I appreciate the due diligence put in to this appointment by President Román and some of my colleagues. I think they're a very well qualified, good candidate. But this is something that I receive some of the most advocacy for from my district. It's something I've been advocating for many years. So while I do think that they're a wonderful candidate, they don't reflect my district priorities at the time, and I'll continue to advocate for more diversity on Comida. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy.
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baynes.
Yes.
Mr. Baynes votes yes. Mr. Blankley.
Yes.
Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick.
Yes.
Ms. Bonnick votes yes. Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman votes no. Mrs. DiFlorio is out. Mr. Dondorfer.
Yes.
Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hughes-Smith. Ms. Hughes-Smith votes no. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Maffucci. Mr. Maffucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes yes. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. And President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 26-2. Resolution passes.
I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
Item number 32, referral 25-0142, confirmation of appointments to the Monroe County Environmental Management Council.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by legislator Barnhart, seconded by legislator Baynes and Maffucci. Is there any discussion?
Was that legislator McIntyre? Gotcha.
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 33, referral 25-0143.BR. Resolution authorizing the issuance of $13 million bonds of the County of Monroe, New York to finance costs of the replacement of voting machines in and for said county at an estimated maximum cost of $14 million and superseding the bond resolution adopted on November 14th, 2023, resolution number 351 of 2023 as amended.
Moved by legislator Maffucci, second by legislator Udelson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 34, referral 25-0143.PR, resolution repealing the bond resolution adopted on December 10, 2024, resolution number 384 of 2024, authorizing $2 million bonds of the County of Monroe, New York to finance the cost of voting equipment in and for said county.
Moved by legislator Maffucci, seconded by legislator Udelson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 35, referral 25-0144, amending resolution 270 of 2019 as amended by resolution 31 of 2020, resolution 72 of 2021, resolution 409 of 2021, and resolution 325 of 2022, authorizing renewal contracts with Securus Technologies using modified commissions and providing for payment of telephonic security services on a separately priced basis.
Moved by legislator Maffucci, seconded by legislator Udelson. Is there any discussion? Legislator Sinclair.
Yeah, quick question to you, Madam Chair. All inmates have iPads, correct? Sorry to the sheriff.
Through you, Madam President, that is correct.
I'm sorry?
Yes, all inmates have tablets.
So we're trying to save money and manpower. The sheriff's department's very strapped. We all know that. We're always trying to help them out with manpower. Anyone in the jail is able to request discovery. Discovery can be a lot, 300, 400 pages of discovery that then has to be printed out, wasting of paper. Is there any way that this can be set up where it can be just emailed to they have an email account on their iPads? Why can't it be emailed to them so we don't have to take the time? I know the deputies spend a lot of time printing these out because it used to be done outside. Now it has to be done inside by the sheriff's department. Is there a way to do that to eliminate that process?
Through you, Madam President, that is a solution that we're working out. Currently, our tablet provider, we do not have that feature, but that is something that we're considering in the future.
Something they're considering in the future. Yep. Any other questions?
Madam President?
Are you Legislator Sinclair, did you yield the floor? I'm going.
Yes, okay. Legislator Barnes. Thank you. I have several questions. through the president to the administration. Back in 2021, a group of criminal justice advocates worked with the sheriff's department to come up with a plan for no-cost phone calls at the jail. There was, we voted on 75 minutes a week at no cost. At the time, the cost per minute was 10 cents a minute. And this equaled about a savings of $30 a month for families, because families are the people who bear the cost of these calls. I sent a number of questions about this referral, which we only got late yesterday morning. And I sent the questions late in the morning yesterday, received answers this afternoon. And in response to my question about whether free phone calls would continue, I was told no, just the ones that you have to provide them by law, such as to their attorney. Can you confirm that indeed that 75 minutes a week is no longer going to be offered? And if not, why?
Through you, Madam President, we are actually here to do the recent changes with the Federal Communications Commission's rules and regulations concerning the payment of telephone services for incarcerated individuals. And we're requesting to amend our contract with Secure Technologies. That's the Monroe County Jail's incarcerated individual phone and tablet services provider, to comply with the new law, which is the Martha Wright Reed Act. So our current contract is a 5-year contract with an option for 5 one-year renewals. And we completed our 5th year, April 30th of 2025 this year. And we're asking to extend our contract through April 30th, 2026, using one of the 1-year renewal options. And so what the Martha Wright Reed Act did was it set limits on how much providers can charge incarcerated individuals and their families. So a facility of our size, which is a medium-sized jail, it reduced the rate cap for incarcerated individual phone calls to 7 cents per minute and video calls to 12 cents per minute. But it also completely eliminated site commissions for phone calls and video calls. So MCJ, which is the Monroe County Jail, is no longer permitted to receive commissions on telephone calls and video calls. And the free phone calls that we were providing were provided out of the telephone revenues, which we are no longer permitted to receive. It also, under the law, it prohibits our provider secures from offering free of charge any vital safety and security features to enhance our phone and video services. So we're now required to pay secures for those features.
Thank you. The new rate is 7 cents a minute. So with the 75 minutes of calls a week, now families would pay $20 a month for those calls. And it's my understanding that there is $1.9 million in the inmate trust fund, which was funded by these past commissions that you're no longer able to charge, but you will still be able to get commissions from the tablet and email, the premium content, email and text messaging services. There's nothing in that law that prohibits jails and prisons from offering free phone calls, is there?
Through the chair, through you, Madam President, no, there's nothing in the law that will prevent free telephone calls. That fund, the current revenue that's in that fund will eventually dwindle because of the no commissions on phone calls. So we would be able to probably negotiate with Securus free phone calls for a while, but eventually we would no longer be able to offer it from that fund account because the money will not be there. And the commissions that we would be allowed to receive for the premium tablet content is a minimal amount. Securus receives 70% of that. We receive 30%, and that's to cover the cost of our tablet program. There's a cost to having a tablet program. We have to audit the tablets. We have to distribute headphones. We have to charge the chargers, charge the tablets, and we also have staff that assist with changing PIN numbers. So there's a very real cost, and the 30% helps offset that, as well as we are now required to pay for security features such as checking PIN numbers to make sure inmates aren't being manipulated. We have to retain phone calls for 3 years according to the New York State retention law, and that storage fee is no longer permitted under the FCC ruling, so we have to pay for that from our provider now. So those costs from that commissions is what 30% is used for.
Thank you for confirming that
families will now have to pay more money under this arrangement. So what the FCC did was good, and that they lowered the cost because this issue exploded around the country since 2021, when this legislature was very progressive in making that decision. But the downside is that they are losing a benefit from this policy change, which we only got yesterday. But speaking of the cost of tablets through the president to the administration, to send an email message to an inmate, or for an inmate to send a message to someone else, you have to buy these things called stamps. And each stamp costs 50 cents. And you have to buy a minimum of 5 stamps in a bundle. And though that would cost you $2.50. And by the time you pay the $3 processing fee and tax, you're talking over $6 to buy 5 stamps, which allow you to send 5 emails. If you want to send a photo, that's 2 stamps. And Securus gets 70% of that revenue. And what has happened over time in the United States is that Securus has turned, and its one main competitor, they have turned to these tablets and the premium content and email and text messaging as their main source of revenue, because they've seen the writing on the wall with what the FCC was going to do. So my question through the chair to the administration is, can Securus raise the fees on the tablet services for the premium content, emails, and text messages during this 1-year extension?
Through you, Madam President, no.
Through the president to the administration, I've just explained that it can cost $1 to send an email, more than $1, because of the bundling practice, which hurts poorer individuals more because they can't buy more stamps at one time. Are you forced to accept these bundling fees from the Securus in the contract? Bundling meaning the more stamps you buy, the better deal you get in terms of the number of messages that you can send.
Through you, Madam President, the reason that tablet media content is not regulated by the FCC is because it does not prohibit an inmate, an incarcerated individual, and their families from costly communications. They still have phone calls, they have mail, they have a lot of ways to communicate. So the premium tablet content is a bonus. We put 800 phones in every inmate's hands. They no longer have to share phones. They each have tablet content. If they want to enhance their experience on the tablet, they can purchase premium content at their choice. It's an option, it's not an obligation.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration, the FCC doesn't regulate it yet. I'm sure that's coming. 30% of the revenue then from the tablets goes to the inmate trust fund, and 70% goes to Securus. So that 30% goes into the inmate trust fund. And can you, because a lot of my colleagues have been asking me this today, can you just tell us what are the things that the inmate trust fund can be used for?
What we have used the trust fund in the past for, it's we do use it for emergencies, such as on one occasion, our dental office flooded. We were able to quickly repair that to no cost to the taxpayer, and it went quickly because we had the funds available. We purchased washing machine and dryers for the inmates. We purchased radio enhancements for our civilian staff. We've done other things that I can't think of, but I could probably send you an email list of some other things if you would like.
Through the president to the administration, that was my next question. If you could please provide us a list of the expenditures over the last year from the inmate trust fund, that would be very much appreciated. I just have one other question. Why is this a matter of urgency? It's my understanding that medium-sized jails did have a little bit more time to comply with the new cost structure.
Through the president, I'll take that one because I think it's a contractual and regulatory question ultimately. So the FCC regulations kick in when a contract expires, and the last term, the term of the current Securus contract expired on April 30th.
Thank you. This is a policy change, and it's one that I believe the community should have had an opportunity to weigh in on. It's a big change, and therefore I make a motion to table.
Second. Motion to table by Legislator Barnhart, seconded by Vasquez Simmons and Baynes. Is there any?
No discussion.
No discussion on that. Oh, you were seconding that as well? Perfect. Okay, so voting on the motion to table.
We want a roll call?
Yes.
Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson votes no. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes no. Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy.
No.
Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes no. Mr. Baynes. Mr. Baynes votes yes. Mr. Blankley.
No.
Mr. Blankley votes no. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes no. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes no. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes no. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes no. Mr. Cruz.
No.
Mr. Cruz votes no. Ms. DeVecchio Hoffman. Ms. DeVecchio Hoffman votes yes. Mrs. DiFlorio is out. Mr. Dondorfer.
Nope.
Mr. Dondorfer votes no. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes no. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hughes-Smith. Ms. Hughes-Smith votes yes. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes no. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes no. Mr. Long.
No.
Mr. Long votes no. Mr. Maffucci. Mr. Maffucci votes no. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes no. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes no. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes no. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes no. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes no. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes no. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes yes. President Roman.
No.
President Roman votes no. 6-22, motion to table fails.
Okay, I'd like to explain my vote. I still have the floor, right?
You can explain your vote, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think this is an outrage. We've had little more than 24 hours to digest a major policy change that will cost families in this community more money. These are some of our most vulnerable families, some of our most low-income families, and they're the ones who pay the brunt of these costs to stay in touch with their loved ones at the jail. And staying in touch with their loved ones keeps our entire community safer so that when they re-enter, they have those bonds. We went through this 4 or 5 years ago, and we agreed that that was a good thing. And now we're taking it away with hardly any discussion and no community input from stakeholders. I find this absolutely appalling, not to mention the fact that the end of this Securus contract was an opportunity to revisit the predatory pricing structure of the tablets, because this is how they're making their money now. And it is wrong. And I am ashamed that we are part of this. And this is just not good governance. It's not a good way to do business. And I am voting no.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator.
Through the chair to the administration, what would have been the consequences of this body voting no on or voting yes to table this?
Through you, Madam President, our contract would not have renewed, and we would no longer have a tablet program and phone services program. Securus would have to pull their equipment, and we would go back to block phones, and we would go back to media, and we would have friends and families not able to communicate with their families as effectively as they are today. And to correct some information that was placed earlier, the phone calls are now 7 cents per minute. The cap previously was 10 cents per minute. And so actually families will be saving money. The 2 phone calls that they were permitted per week does not equate to the overall savings that they would experience in the long term.
Through the chair to the administration, Madam President. So in conclusion, we would be saving money?
Through you, Madam President, correct.
Thank you. That'll be all.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion before I allow legislator to speak again? No, Legislator Barnhart.
Yeah, let's do the math. 10 cents times 75 minutes times 4 weeks is 30. So it's $30 that the families were given free. Now we have 7 cents times 75 minutes times 4 weeks, that's $21. So they went from minus 30 to plus 21. I don't understand how you're saying that families are saving money. Can you please explain that again?
Back in 2021, Sheriff Baxter allowed for each incarcerated individual to receive 2 free phone calls per week due to COVID. because we were not allowed to have visitors in the facility. So to enhance communication with the families, we permitted 2 free phone calls for each incarcerated individual. We were able to continue that to date because of the telephone revenues. The 2 phone calls per week were 2 free 15-minute phone calls. Those 2 free 15-minute phone calls does not equate to $30.
Through the president to the administration, I just called up a whole bunch of news articles from 2021 saying a third 15-minute phone call was added then. And in fact, we voted on an amendment. We talked about it. I gave a speech about it back then to add to that would be the structure. So you're saying that what I've been assuming for all this time, and that what the news media reported back in 2021, that there were 3 15-minute phone calls adding up. The 75 minutes, that wasn't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know what? No matter how you slice it, we're still going backwards. And I understand.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Baynes and then Legislator. Thank you. Vasquez.
Through you, Madam President, to the administration and to the law department. I heard the reason why this is a matter of urgency is that the contract has expired. Could we have voted on this prior to the expiration of the contract?
Through the president, for quite some time, county law, sheriff's council, working with the New York State Sheriff's Association, working with the vendor. We've been working through this issue, and really negotiations on the term of that contract only concluded recently.
Through you, Madam President, to the administration, the response was that if we were not to pass this, that the program would be removed. But if the contract ended on April 30th, isn't the contract continuing at least unsigned between the parties, because the program is continuing as of this speaking?
Through the president, we have a short-term letter agreement, essentially allowing it to continue for this month while the legislature considers this matter. As the sheriff's office reported, if the matter is not adopted, at that point, Securus would have to remove their equipment.
I'd like to explain my vote, Madam President. The matter of urgency provision in the charter is certainly important. And in this case, I certainly don't want folks to lose access to their families. I voted in favor of the motion to table simply because we should be considering this through regular process. Based on the answer from the county attorney, it sounds like there are a lot of moving parts, but I'm hesitant to vote under a matter of urgency without going through regular order for anything. So, with hesitancy, but understanding the implications and the exigencies involved, I'll be voting yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Legislator Vasquez.
Here. I too have concern. I'm outraged that we didn't have an opportunity to really have discussion about this. This hurts vulnerable communities. Even if we were able to put a hold on this, I would have rather that than rush to make a decision that impacts so many people. So I will be voting no on this.
Thank you, legislators. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Legislator Barnhart, this will be the last time you have the floor.
Quick. I just want to correct myself. I was including a 30-minute video call when I said 75 minutes. So I just went back and looked at the news articles. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood the math. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Glad we had that discussion. Any other comments or discussion? No? Okay. That being said, all in favor?
No.
Oh, my apologies.
Roll call.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Udelson. Yes. Mr. Udelson votes yes. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew votes yes. Ms. Barnhart.
No.
Ms. Barnhart votes no. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy.
Yes.
Ms. Bartholomew McCoy votes yes. Mr. Baynes. Mr. Baynes votes yes. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley votes yes. Ms. Bonnick. Ms. Bonnick votes yes. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess votes yes. Mr. Chardy. Mr. Chardy votes yes. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz votes yes. Ms. Zelvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Zelvecchio Hoffman votes no. Mrs. DiFlorio. Mr. Dondorfer.
Yes.
Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier votes yes. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman votes yes. Ms. Hughes-Smith. Ms. Hughes-Smith votes yes. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns votes yes. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller votes yes. Mr. Long. Mr. Long votes yes. Mr. Maffucci. Mr. Maffucci votes yes. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe votes yes. Ms. McIntyre. Ms. McIntyre votes yes. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne votes yes. Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris votes yes. Mr. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair votes yes. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons votes no. President Roman.
Yes.
President Roman votes yes. 25-3, resolution passes.
Thank you. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Udelson.
Madam President, I move that we stand adjourned until 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 10th.
Almost. Have a great night. Does she?